Oh boy. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, I'll say this right here at the beginning of the first video of the show today, you're gonna be eating well. Because we've got a lot of Montreal Canadiens stuff to dive into today, so much so that I honestly think we're gonna have a triple stack of Habs videos coming out on the channel to open up the show, and this is not even including any piece of news that's actually going to be relevant on the morning of October 23rd. These are all stories from yesterday and beyond that I wanted to dive into because yesterday we didn't really have the time to do that. Also, the Montreal Canadiens did play a game yesterday, which was very disappointing, and I didn't end up watching that because the Vancouver Canucks were playing the Chicago Blackhawks at the same time. The Habs, though, got absolutely smoked by the New York Rangers, and I'm seeing a lot of doom and gloom around the Canadiens fanbase as a result. Not to go out there and say that any of that is unjustified or not valid, but hey, the Habs are still rebuilding, folks. They were not supposed to be contending for a playoff spot this year. And if they did, you would have hoped to have a team that was not as injured as they are right now. No more Slafkovsky, no Cayden, no Patrik Laine. It's going to be difficult for the Habs. But in this video, I didn't want to talk at all about the Rangers game, firstly because I didn't watch it. I don't really want to go out there and dive into a deep, intricate analysis as to why my second favorite team sucked. But I also wanted to talk about one other thing that had popped up over the past few days that had started to gain some traction ever since the weekend. Let's talk about Montreal Canadiens forward Cole Caufield and one of his post-game interviews from the other day. Now, before we dive into the actual content, let's talk about Caufield first. 23 years old, signed on till the end of 2031, making $7.85 million a year. Caufield had 65 points in 82 games played last year with 28 goals. This year, he's got 7 points in 7 games with 6 goals on top of that. So he's on pace for around 70 goals. Is he going to hit that? I don't really know. If he does, then I won't necessarily complain. It's been a while since the Canadiens have had anybody reach at the very least 40 goals, but if there's anybody that's going to go out there and lead the Habs in goal scoring this season, I think a lot of people think Caufield's going to be that guy. Maybe Laine had a shot too had he not been injured, but still. Caufield has been shooting and Caufield has been scoring, and while he did not score a goal yesterday against the New York Rangers in that 7-2 loss, he has still been putting the puck in the back of the net. This is why when you go over to the Cole Caufield interview that was taking place after the Islanders game on Saturday, this is where you get into some of the discussions that were tossed out as to the content of Cole Caufield interviews. The reason I say that is because you had yourselves a journalist going out there and asking Caufield about the status of his shot. The question from Guillaume Lefrançois goes out there and asks if Cole Caufield is feeling more comfortable shooting the puck this year, because the shots that he has been putting in, the angles, they've been going in a lot more compared to last year, and so the question is, hey, do you feel more comfortable shooting it? And Caufield then replies with a very easy, breezy, beautiful no. And then he gives a little bit of a chuckle, and he kind of shakes it off. And then he kind of says it again. He double downs, he triple downs. He's like, no. And then he kind of laughs a little bit again. Obviously, the implication here is, oh, are you more comfortable with shooting? And he's like, no, I'm not more comfortable. I was already comfortable last year, so why are you asking if I'm more comfortable again now? I mean, doesn't take a genius to understand why the question is being asked. It's like, hey, you're scoring more goals this year. So what's the status update on that? Caufield then kind of mutters a little bit, saying that's a crazy question. Lefrançois then kind of retorts, and he chuckles around a little bit too. He says, yeah, because last year you had the shoulder surgery, and then Caufield cut him off. He says, have you had one? Lefrançois quickly says no, and then Caufield's like, okay, and then he chuckles a little bit more while looking at the ground. This was a really interesting moment, and the reason I say interesting is because when you have things like this where a reporter and a player kind of clash a little bit. Of course, it's not a big confrontation or anything. This is not why are you so pissy, Cole Caufield, like we had seen in Edmonton. It's more just a lighter kind of back and forth. But with this situation, we saw actually a pretty diverse set of opinions. Some were going out there and saying, hey, good on Caufield for being sassy with the media, asking him questions that are pretty cookie cutter. Why does he have to go out there and answer them? He's got the right to answer however he wants, and it gives us content to watch. But you also had some replies like this one from Vinny. I love my short king, Cole Caufield, but I don't think the reporter was out of line. Pretty generic hockey question. I don't know. Another reply asks, am I the only one who doesn't like this response by Cole? It was a good, fair question. I don't like the attitude. Dude, you're in Montreal. You know you'll get asked a lot of questions. Answer them, even if it's cliche. And furthermore, this was posted about even further by Maxime Truman, who, of course, we know Truman from Dans les coulisses, he does stuff over there. He posted this thread replying to the video clip. At the risk of having tomatoes thrown at me, the question was good and pertinent. The answer, not much less. It's very possible that Caufield has regained his swag thanks to his fully healed shoulder. Denis Gauthier said this week that it took 18 months for him to recover. People want journalists to ask real questions, not the easy ones, but you have to see it when a journalist asks a real or a more difficult question and the player refuses to dance with them. And yeah, refusing to dance, I think that's a good way to put it. It's like Caufield immediately rejecting the notion of the question and what exactly the scoop that Lefrancois is looking for, because obviously, when you think about it from the lens of journalists trying to ask questions and get answers, they ask the questions because they want the answers to put in their articles. Like, oh, Caufield spoke out about how things are different from last year to this year. The quote that he probably wanted from Caufield, manipulating him into saying, was like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling more comfortable shooting this year compared to last. And that's supplemented by the idea that he's got 6 goals in 7 games, and last year he had scored much fewer goals per game than he had even the year prior to, possibly due to the shoulder surgery and the recovery. So for Caufield to immediately dismiss it, saying, no, I'm not feeling more comfortable shooting the puck, implying that he's always felt comfortable, that's fair. But to then double down and kind of throw it back in the journalist's face, saying, have you ever had a shoulder surgery, while cutting him off, that's a little bit interesting too. Now, I wasn't actually going to make a video about this. It's why it's been a few days and we haven't talked about it until now, but the reason we're bringing this up one more time is because there was an extra piece of information that was given to us from Dans les coulisses earlier 2 days ago about this Caufield situation. Take a look at this article from Charles-Alexis Brisebois. Chantal Machabé knows that Cole Caufield needs to answer journalists' questions better. Huh. Okay. The article then brings up the Maxime Truman tweets and the Guillaume Lefrancois questions that Caufield himself did not like. But then we have ourselves some extra notes here. Take a look at this. On the airwaves of BPM Sports, the guys from the morning show were of the same opinion with Luc Gélina. The RDS journalist obviously had no problem with the question, and he also stated, as others have done, that Caufield and Lefrancois chatted after the media availability. The atmosphere was good. But it's still normal that it gets people talking. After all, it wasn't a good answer from the young man, who isn't in his first barbecue in terms of ordinary answers in front of the media. And the Habs know that. Still, in his column today at BPM Sports, Luc Gélina mentioned that last year, Chantal Machabé was supposed to meet with Caufield to tell him to tone it down and take his cool when he talks to journalists. She is obviously well aware of the journalist's point of view on the subject. Then, it says here at the bottom, the journalists are there to report on what the players say, and if Caufield starts insulting the other people every time somebody talks to him about his game, especially at a time where things are going well for him, it will be Lorne. And it's not like everyone is picking on him either. His strong start to the season is recognized around town, but still, questions can be asked. Note that it was when Réjean Tremblay said that Caufield had a nightlife that things changed for Caufield. It changed his way of seeing things. But there's a difference between Réjean Tremblay and Guillaume Lefrancois. Caufield must recognize that. And okay, if you hadn't seen the part about the last thing, like what exactly the nightlife is referring to, that's an entirely other situation, but other than that, I think, with Cole Caufield as a guy, he's a top-paid superstar player, he's a great dude, it seems like, and he has some pretty insightful interview comments. That is, when he decides to give them. I'd say maybe like 95 to maybe 97% of the time, Caufield gives great answers to the media. But once in a while, you do get some attitude here and there. And I can understand that, hey, the guy is forced to answer questions his entire career. Why, when he has one snarky, maybe sassy answer, that's when people start getting on his behind, trying to get him back in the form. I get that it could be kind of tantalizing to be put in a box like that, but at the same time, you know, it's his job. So Interestingly enough, we do have some word that apparently the Canadiens wanted to talk to Caufield to ease him up a little bit in the face of the media, courtesy of Chantal Machabé, assuming this report is confirmed. But either way, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Cole Caufield and his recent interview questions. Stay tuned because we got some more Canadiens talk coming up later in today's show. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.